broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And it's the first one I'm actually doing after a European game, in this instance, a Europa League game. And we're getting into the business end of the Europa League now. We're into the knockout stage. My reasoning for not doing the group stages is because you don't really learn a lot from those games. And usually the calibre of opposition are not of sufficient quality for me to really cover in great detail. But as soon as you go into the knockout stages, obviously it goes into two-legged ties and the games can be a bit more tricky and the teams are a bit more notable. As was the instance when we drew Benfica, I think a lot of fans, when we drew them, were very nervous because obviously we had been going through a very bad patch. I think most fans expected us to go out without any expectations, but then obviously we've gone on this very good run. Yes, sometimes the results haven't been as good as expected, but the performances have been much better and we're at least creating more chances. So I think a lot of Arsenal fans were a bit more optimistic about this game going into it. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of the performance and we'll talk about the lineup first. So Bernd Leno started in goal with Bellerin, Luiz, Gabriel and Cedric. Tierney was back in the squad, but Cedric still started. Obviously, Tierney hasn't played for a while. Tobias and Xhaka in midfield with Saka on the right, Odegaard at number 10, Smith Rowe on the left, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang up front again. So basically, it was the exact same team that we played against Leeds, the one that produced that really good performance against them. I think a lot of people, including myself, expected a bit more rotation. I think because of the schedule, I mean, we had Leeds on Monday, we had Benfica on Thursday, and then we have Man City on Sunday, Benfica again on Thursday, and then I think Leicester on Sunday. So that's a very hectic 2 weeks with some really quality opposition within that. So I expected some rotation in this game, but we got none. There was 0 changes in the lineup. So I thought Lacazette and Pepe were being saved for this game, but it turns out they weren't. So I think there will probably be more rotation coming in on the weekend instead of this game. In terms of Benfica, I talked about this before in the last podcast, that Benfica have been struggling in their division. They haven't really been that good. A lot of Benfica fans were quite pessimistic. Yes, they knew that Arsenal were a poor side, but I think a lot of them were fearing the worst. And I think Benfica on the day didn't play well at all. I think Arsenal were the better side on the day. I don't think the performance was as good as Leeds or the Wolves first half or even the Chelsea game, but I still think the performance was good, and I still think we had decent chances on another day that we would win. Now, the first half, we had that really, really big chance with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Hector Bellerin goes down the right, puts in a lovely ball in, which he hasn't done enough this season especially. Puts in a lovely ball in and Aubameyang misses from pretty much an unmissable range. Well, I think that's harsh. You have seen them miss, but more chance of them going in than being a miss. I think a lot of people, including myself, expected it to go in. I think I blame myself partly because when I saw the cross go in, I was like, oh. And then Aubameyang proceeded to miss it. I think even Saka in the centre, I think there was something I noticed, is that when Saka goes into the box as well, he leaves it for Aubameyang because I think he expects him to be the more natural finisher. But Aubameyang misses, and that was a really big miss. It was a very, very poor chance, and we probably should have done better in that instance. I saw people giving Aubameyang pelters on Twitter for the miss, and then he obviously had another chance later on in the game where he goes through on goal. There's a defender chasing him with him, and he could have took it with his left foot, but he tried to cut in and missed, and the opportunity went as the defender blocked the ball. But my view on the Aubameyang missed chances is that at least he's getting them. Now, this may be me being very optimistic compared to a lot of other fans. I think Arsenal this season especially haven't been creating enough chances for their captain. Yes, he missed these chances, but I think I've discussed before that I don't think Aubameyang is a clinical finisher. Again, I've said it for the last 3 episodes. Aubameyang's superpower is getting him a load of high-quality chances. It's not his finishing ability. I think I've gone on record to say that I think Lacazette is the better finisher because he seems to be closer to outperforming his XG, which indicates that he's a really good finisher. Whereas Aubameyang, I think, always has done well to his XG and always been very close to it. I think only last season he outperformed it. I think every other season he could have scored more because he's missed some big chances. But I'm happy that we're getting him the chances now and not just relying on really poor chances and really low amount of chances. It's important to get your striker and your so-called best player and your best goal scorer as many chances as you can to score, because then once you allow him and once you get him those chances, then there's more chance of him scoring at least one. And I think there are other times where he was just getting one shot a game and it wasn't a very high chance, but he had chances. He probably could have scored a hat-trick in this game, but there will be another game where he scores these chances and there'll be another game where he has more of these chances. So I wouldn't worry personally. I don't think his performance was as bad as some people have made out. I thought he was completely fine and it was a completely typical Aubameyang performance, just minus the goals. And if he scored those goals, everyone would be saying he played great. But because he's missed those chances, he's getting pelters, and he knows that he should have finished those chances, but he will score them on another occasion. Aubameyang reminds me mentally of Theo Walcott, because Theo Walcott would have games where he would miss the easiest of chances, but he would never ever let it put him down. And that's what I like about a striker, is that yes, you've missed a chance, but you don't really care. I think Edinson Cavani is actually a very good example of this. I don't think he's a really good finisher either, but he never lets it affect him and he always allows himself to get more goals. I think some other strikers, like possibly Alvaro Morata, is a good example of someone who misses a load of chances, but I think it affects them because he doesn't score. He's not a prolific goal scorer, whereas I think Cavani or Aubameyang is. But in terms of the performance, I think we played well. I don't think Benfica played well at all. They barely had any chances in this game. I think the only real chances I can remember was the penalty, and we'll get to that. And there was a chance by the substitute Everton, not the football club, who curled a shot just wide. I think for the most part, Arsenal controlled them really well, and I think we should have scored more goals in this game, like I said. But there was no goals in the first half. It ended 0-0. I mean, combined, there was only 5 shots from both teams. So it was a very cagey half. And even though I think Arsenal played better, to not go in ahead was a kicker. So the second half started and Rafa came on for Val Smith, And Rafa, I thought, was very good in the game. I think he's probably one of Benfica's best players, so for him to not start was an odd one. But then we had a decision to make, and it was, I think we gave away a corner very poorly in the lead up to this penalty. I think someone, I'm not sure exactly who the Benfica player is, but he fires in a cross. It hits Smith Rowe in the rib cage and then goes onto his arm, and the referee points to the spot. I thought it was harsh. I mean, what can you do in that situation? But I think if you have your arms out like that, I think in modern day terms, it's probably a penalty. So it was unfortunate. Smith Rowe again looked gutted. He always looks gutted when he lets down the team, and you can see, I mean, the Newcastle sending off, he looked absolutely gutted, and obviously you will be as a young kid. He'll learn that mistakes happen. It's what happens when you learn from them. Benfica had a penalty, and Pizzi, their top scorer, scores it. Very good penalty, and this was really one of their only big chances in the game. So that was disappointing, but I think our reaction was very good. We didn't allow them to settle, and we didn't allow them to try and slow down the game. And it was only 2 minutes later before we got a goal ourselves. And it was a really flowing move. It was quickly forward. Ceballos and Xhaka were involved. And then it gets to the box, and there was a pass going into Smith Rowe. The defender clears it. It hits another Benfica player in the face, and it falls to Aubameyang. Now, when I first initially saw this, I thought that Aubameyang was offside, but obviously didn't factor that it had come off a Benfica player's face rather than an Arsenal player passing it to him. But Aubameyang reacts well, passes it back to Odegaard, who produces a lovely ball forward, and Cedric first time in to Bukayo Saka, who's in the box to tap it in, basically. It was a classic Arsenal goal, one that I like seeing because it was well worked. We broke them apart, and it was a really good finish. Now, there's a couple of people that we have to praise in this. Bukayo Saka, obviously, for making that run. He's starting to make these runs more into the box, which is actually really encouraging. I don't think he'd done that last season. I think now he's doing it. And these runs are vital. He's got 11 goal involvements now in all competitions this season. And I think he has 6 goals, which is really, really good, especially for a 19-year-old. And I think Arsenal lost something when Aaron Ramsey left for someone who was providing goals from midfield. And yes, I know Saka is a wide player, a winger, but the point still stands that we just couldn't rely on Aubameyang trying to score us 30 goals. We now seem to have someone who can score goals on a regular basis alongside Aubameyang. And he makes these really good runs, and I think even in the Leeds game he could have scored. He looks like he could score every game now, and that's really encouraging because he's getting goals now, but surely as he develops even more, he will get more and more goals, and his talent is just unquestionable at the moment. So I'm really pleased for him, and he deserves it, and he's made that right-hand side his own. But obviously I have to talk about the pass as well that was produced in the build-up, and that was by Martin Odegaard. Now, I said after the Leeds game that I thought he had a decent game, if not being spectacular, but I thought he was very, very good in this game. I think his vision is incredible, and a lot of people have been comparing him to Mesut Ozil in terms of he likes to go to the right wing to collect the ball. He's very Ozil-esque. He doesn't stay in the centre all the time. I think as he gets more match fit, he will get better. But also when the teammates get used to him, I think we will be better. There was one pass from Odegaard in the first half, which was really deep, but it was a lovely through ball to Bukayo Saka. And the chance basically sort of went begging. But those are the passes that you just haven't seen Arsenal players produce. And Smith Rowe obviously came in and we've been performing fantastic. But Smith Rowe, I think, is more of a short passer. I don't think at this present moment in time he can produce those through balls as well as Odegaard. I think his skill is being very close to another body and linking up with them very well, allowing them to have another option. Basically, it's a link between the midfield and the attack. I think Odegaard is that classic number 10, classic creative player who will produce through balls, who will get you those assists, and he was very good in this game. I'm really encouraged by him, and I know it's only a loan signing, but I'm already wanting him to stay because he's just such a lovely player to watch. And I think we've missed that type of player for a while. And I think he has a very good connection with Danny Ceballos. I think Danny Ceballos has looked better with a number 10 in front of him, if that's Emil Smith Rowe or if that's Martin Odegaard. He's looked good with someone in front of him to link up. And even Odegaard has the classic Arsenal thing. I know there was a chance which was offside, but he had this chance where he could have shot, but he passes it across to Odegaard to Ceballos, which is classic Arsenal. So we should sign him up already. But he had a really good performance, and I was really pleased with his contribution. But after we scored the goal with Bukayo Saka, we made some changes, and Benfica did. So we brought on Tierney on for Cedric, which was fine. Get some minutes in Tierney's legs. And then we made 2 changes, a double change. We brought Pepe on for Aubameyang and we brought Martinelli on for Smith Rowe. And Pepe went out to the left and Martinelli went out front. But at this point, I think both teams had settled for a 1-1 draw. Benfica dropped very deep and obviously didn't want to concede another away goal. Arsenal were also a bit cautious to not go completely gung-ho, because I think there have been times where, in the past anyway, in European competitions, where we have gone a bit gung-ho and we've regretted it because we've conceded a goal. So I think we were a bit cautious. I would have liked to see us get another goal, and to be honest, we probably should have won the game because obviously the Aubameyang missed chances. But a 1-1 draw is not the worst result in the world. And that's how it ended. It ended 1-1. We obviously have the away goal, and to go into next week, I know it's not a real away tie because obviously we're going to Athens. We're not going back to the Emirates. But we have the away goal. Benfica have to score now. If we win by 1-0 or 0-0, we go through. The advantage is with us, but just slightly. So it just means that we have to produce a really good performance. And I think on the basis of this performance and on the basis of the opposition, I think I'm less worried now than I was before the first leg. I thought Benfica would be much better than they were. They were not. Now, it could just be a very bad performance, but I think I've seen Benfica fans say that this is just the norm for them. This is the type of performance they expected. So I'm encouraged, and I hope we can go through in the next leg in Athens. It's obviously something that is relying on us a lot this season because the Europa League is really the main competition for us now to get somewhere. I know we're not that far off in the league from top 6, but there's in terms of points, but there's still a lot of teams above us that we have to jump over, so that's going to be tricky. So the Europa League realistically is our best shot of getting back into Europe and getting into the Champions League. That is the reward. So it's important that we go into next week with some small confidence that we can go through against them and go through to the next round, because it would be a disaster to go out in the round of 32 just like last year. That was a disaster, and hopefully this year can be different. So we've only got a small amount of questions this week, and obviously I ask them every week on my Twitter account at AFC Met. So look out for the tweet after the game to ask me any questions. So I've only got two. One's from regular contributor at the Flying Gooner, or Jack, and he asks, why is Arsenal so depressing? Again, I think this was a bit harsh. I think a lot of people were down after the game. I wasn't really one of them. I thought, yes, we had a missed opportunity in terms of we didn't take the chances that we had. We should have beaten them by more. But if we go through next week, no one will be looking for this game and looking for bad things about it. They will be saying, okay, we got an away goal, we limited them, and we've gone through comfortably. But obviously, for that fault to come into place, we have to go win the tie next week. So Arsenal have to produce a really good performance next week to go through. 1-1 is a decent scoreline for the away team in the first leg. An away goal is always important, but we have to limit them and we have to score ourselves. I think we can't go into this game thinking of a 0-0. We have to go into this game looking for a goal or two, really kill the tie and hope it will be okay. Now, the other question is from Ansel97, and he says, chances of a 2-2 draw next week. Now, obviously, if we do draw 2-2 next week, Arsenal go out, because obviously it will end 3-3 on aggregate. But Benfica would have scored the more away goals in inverted commas, because it's not really an away tie. It's at a neutral venue. So Arsenal have to beware. They have to score next week, like I said, and hopefully they can get 2 goals, but not make it seem like Benfica can get goals themselves. They have to be on their game. No stupid mistakes. We know this defence is good, but if they get 2 goals, we are in real trouble, because then we have to score 3 to go through. So there are a lot of circumstances next week that we just have to be careful of. And I just hope that we are on our game and that we produce a really good performance, because those missed chances will come into more and more focus if we go out. I mean, you had that Aubameyang missed chance against Olympiacos, and I'm really sorry to bring it up because it is heartbreaking, but no one would bat an eyelid about it if Aubameyang's goal earlier had meant something and Olympiacos didn't score, because it was such an important chance and it was a gut wrench that it was really sad for him and it was really sad for us. But like I said, we have a big performance next week and hopefully we can go through. So thanks for your question, guys. And I just want to do some slight Man City preview. Obviously, we have Man City this weekend. Funnily enough, De Bruyne's back, Gundogan's back, and I think Aguero's back as well. So obviously back for the Arsenal game. Obviously, we're going in as underdogs here. It will be a much different performance because obviously it's against a bigger side. I doubt we're going to have the free-flowing game that we had against Leeds. I think it will be much more of a containment game. And I don't think I'm expecting much. I'm expecting a defeat in this game. I'm expecting for some rotation. So Tierney coming in, Pepe, Lacazette, maybe Willian. I mean, I don't want to see it, but he might have to come in. Rob Holding will probably come in the defence. Maybe Cedric starts at right back. So there are a lot of changes that we can make in this game. Obviously, I think people will be disappointed with the amount of rotation. Obviously, we can't start the same team 3 times in 1 week. Arsenal fans will probably expect a bit more strength in the lineup, but I think because the Benfica game is on such a knife edge, I think there will be rotation and more that the fans will probably not like. But I think if we were to lose the City game but win the Benfica game and go through, I think a lot of fans will not mind it as much. But Man City are obviously on a great run. They're probably going to win the title very easily this season. They're the best side in the league. They are a level above us. So let's just temper expectations. It is going to be a difficult game, and I don't want fans to go crazy about it. So let's just hope we can see some good performance, and maybe they can surprise us, but I'm not expecting much, really. So that's the end of the podcast. Obviously, this was a bit of a shorter one compared to my usual length, just because the Benfica game is effectively one half of a game. So hopefully we can go into the game next week against Benfica and produce a really good performance and go through. But I will be back after the Manchester City game. And then obviously I will do I'll obviously do a post-match podcast after the Benfica game where hopefully I'm talking about us going through to the next round. But until then, come on you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?